He was born under a storm, abandoned by his mother, and feared by an entire village. They called him cursed. But when he stood face to face with the Pope, everything changed. What did Pope Francis see that the rest of the world refused to believe? This is the story of the boy the Vatican tried to forget, and the miracle no one saw coming. Your one like and subscribe will support our efforts. Thank you. In a small village on the outskirts of Lagos, Nigeria, a baby was born under a blood-red sky. The villagers whispered it was an omen, a curse. His mother, a teenager abandoned by her family, gave birth alone in a hut during a storm. Lightning cracked the earth as the baby cried out for the first time. They named him Obinna, meaning father's heart, but the village called him Ojo Ibi, child of misfortune. By the age of 5, Obinna had survived 2 house fires, a venomous snake bite, and a deadly fever that took 3 other children in the village. Rumors began to spread. Some believed he was possessed. Others claimed he brought death wherever he went. His mother tried to protect him, but the pressure was too much. One morning, she disappeared. Obinna was found days later, alone in the forest, barely alive. He became a street child. He wandered from town to town, surviving on scraps, sleeping in church courtyards. Some priests chased him away, others ignored him. None dared to take him in, until one day something extraordinary happened. A visiting nun from Italy, Sister Francesca, noticed Obinna curled up on the steps of a rural mission. Unlike others, she didn't flinch when he looked up at her. There was something in his eyes, not darkness, but light. She offered him food. He refused. She gave him a cross. He took it. Over the next few weeks, Sister Francesca stayed with Obinna. She wrote letters to her order, pleading for help. Her final letter was addressed not to a cardinal nor a bishop, but to Pope Francis himself. It was a desperate move. No one expected a reply. But then, a miracle happened. A Vatican delegation arrived in Nigeria 3 weeks later. They came with one mission: to meet the boy the world had given up on. Obinna didn't speak. He didn't cry. But when he was offered a flight to Rome, he nodded. On the plane, Obinna sat beside a priest who tried to pray for him. Obinna looked at him and whispered, "I see light in people. You have some, but not much." The priest didn't know what to say. The Vatican was not ready for what was coming. Obinna arrived at St. Peter's Basilica under tight security. Journalists weren't told why. Vatican officials were skeptical. But Pope Francis, he insisted on meeting the boy in private, without guards, cameras, or clergy. The moment they met, silence fell over the papal chamber. Obinna stood still, eyes fixed on the old man in white. Pope Francis stepped forward, then knelt to meet the boy at eye level. "What is your name, child?" "Obinna," he whispered, "but they call me a curse." Pope Francis touched the boy's face. They called Jesus many names too. But he changed the world. What happened next shocked everyone. Obinna reached into his pocket and pulled out the cross Sister Francesca had given him. He held it to the Pope's chest and said, "You have more light than anyone I've ever seen." Francis smiled, tears forming in his eyes. He sees light, the Pope later told his aides. Not just in people, but in their pain. That is not a curse. That is a gift. Within days, Obinna was given a room inside the Apostolic Palace. The Pope insisted on seeing him daily. Obinna never asked for toys, books, or food. He only wanted to sit with Francis, sometimes in silence, sometimes asking strange questions. Why do people hide from what hurts? Why do angels leave when we need them the most? Word began to spread. Some Vatican officials were outraged. "He's just a street child," they said. "We don't know his past. He could be dangerous." But Francis pushed back. "Maybe it's not his past we fear, but his future." Then came the event that changed everything. During a general audience at St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis broke protocol. He called Obinna to the stage in front of thousands. He was called a curse, the Pope declared. "But I see in him something many of us have lost, the ability to see hope in broken places." The crowd erupted in applause, but behind the scenes, darker forces were at play. A secret memo circulated among cardinals. Some called for Obina's removal. Others feared the boy was a symbol of the Pope's growing unorthodoxy. Then something even more chilling emerged. Photos from Obina's village showing symbols painted in blood, pagan markings, curses, and relics. Had he been part of something darker? The Pope reviewed them and remained silent. But that night, he invited Obina to the chapel. "Tell me the truth," Francis said. Obina nodded. "I was born into darkness, but the light came anyway." The turning point came one rainy afternoon. Thunderstorm had rolled over Rome. Lightning struck just miles from the Vatican. Tourists scattered. But Obina insisted on going outside. He knelt in St. Peter's Square, alone, as the rain poured. The few who watched said he raised his hands and began to speak in a language no one recognized. Some recorded it. Others claimed their phones stopped working. The next morning, hundreds arrived at the square. They said they had seen dreams, of light, of healing, of faces they had lost. One man from Argentina claimed his daughter's cancer had disappeared overnight. A woman from France said she heard her dead brother's voice in a dream, telling her to forgive. The Pope came forward that evening. "God speaks in strange ways," he told the crowd. "He often uses those we ignore, the poor, the sick, the rejected, to reveal his face. Obina is not a curse. He is a mirror." A week later, Obina disappeared. Some say he returned to Nigeria. Others say the Vatican moved him for his protection. A few believe he died, or transcended. But the impact was undeniable. A new initiative was launched by the Vatican, the Light of the Least, a global mission to find and nurture children from forgotten places. And in the Pope's private study, a single item remains untouched. A child's wooden cross, worn by time, heavy with meaning. We often look for miracles in polished places, churches, palaces, the hands of the powerful. But sometimes, the miracle comes barefoot, broken, and branded as a curse. Obina was never meant to be understood. He was meant to be witnessed. And, for one brief, extraordinary moment, the whole world did.